Alright, this video will be long and also probably features your favorite Zenless Zone Zero creator. Timestamps are in the description and timeline, and if you are looking for further in-depth information on any character, you will find their respective guides linked in the description as well. That said, let's begin. Anby is a stunner and most of her days comes from her EX specials and basics, partially also due to her core passive. Hence, her skill priority should be core into EX special and basics into chain into assist and lastly dodge. Her best set is a 4-piece King of the Summit, but a 4-piece Astral Voice works as well, especially when played with Astra, given that Astra runs Moonlight Lullaby that is. We are looking for crit rate in slot 4, electric damage pen ratio or attack percent in slot 5 and impact in slot 6. As for substats, focus on crit rate first and foremost to hit King of the Summit's 50% crit rate requirement, then crit damage, attack percent and lastly flat pen and flat attack. As for her weapons, Hellfire Gears, Blazing Laurel and Fossil are her best options, but Steam Oven or her own signature, Demara Battery Mark II will work as well. Her recommended team options include but are not limited to Soldier Zero Anby, Zhu Yuan or Harumasa. As an anomaly agent, Alice's damage comes from her assault and disorder procs as well as her polarized assaults. Means her skill levels outside of her core don't matter as much, but if you want to optimize, focus on her core first and foremost, then her chain and basics, into EX, into dodge and lastly assist. A 4-piece Fanged Metal is her best choice with no real other alternative. For the 2-piece, her by far best choice is Phaethon's Melody, but Freedom Blues or Chaos Jazz will be fine as well, and so are Astral Voice, Hormone Punk or Puffer Electro, if you have a good amount of AP substats on them that is. For slot 4, we are looking at Anomaly Proficiency with pen ratio of physical damage in slot 5 and Anomaly Mastery in slot 6. For substats, focus on Anomaly Proficiency, then attack percent and lastly flat pen and flat attack. If you don't run her signature, Anomaly Proficiency and attack percent become of equal value. Her by far best in slot weapon is her signature Practiced Perfection. Other options include Sharpened Stinger, Fusion Compiler and Electro Lip Gloss with Weeping Gemini as her best free-to-play option. Her best team is with Vivian and Yuzua at M0, but at M2 she pairs extremely well with Jane. In fact, it pairs so well that a full M2 team has the highest damage potential in the game. Other team options include Burnice and Yanagi with either Yuzua, Astra Trigger or Nicole in the 3rd slot. Most of Soldier Zero Anby's damage comes from her special Aftershocks, and therefore her skill priority focus first on her core and EX special, then her chain into basics and dodge and lastly assist. If 4-piece Shadow Harmony is her best choice, for the 2-piece choose then either of Woodpecker, Astral Voice, Hormone Punk, Thunder Metal or Puffer Electro. In a mono-electric team, a 4-piece Thunder Metal can be an option, but maintaining a 100% shotgun time, especially without Yuzua, is pretty difficult. For slot 4 we are looking at crit rate, for slot 5 electric damage, attack percent or pen ratio and attack percent in slot 6. When playing with Trigger, Nicole or you simply have access to other Death Shred sources, electric damage and attack percent will win out over pen ratio. With a crit rate weapon, crit damage is a viable choice in slot 4 as well. Her signature is her best choice, with Brimstone, Cordis Gamina or Heartstring Nocturne being viable choices as well. Starlight Engine or Gilded Blossom are then her best free-to-play options. Recommended team options include but are not limited to Seed Trigger and Pulchra, with Astra, Nicole or Lucy in the 3rd slot.
Anton's build depends on how you would want to play him. There are 3 main ways to play and build Anton. First one is quick assist spam with Astra, second one is burst DPS with Chingy, and third one is on-field with Grace. You can pick any supports for the 3rd slot, but the best one in my opinion is Nicole, since she deals considerable amount of damage and gives a lot of decibels for the team. For skill priority, always max out core skill and chain, followed by basic, assist and dodge. You don't need to level up his special. Basic, assist and dodge are around the same level of importance, but it changes depending on how you play him. For example, in quick assist spam, you will prioritize assist more. Meanwhile, in burst and conventional on-field comps, you will prioritize basic more. For this drive, you would be looking at Hormone Punk as your best general pick. You can use Thunder Metal if you pair him with any electric units that provide enough build-up for the team, for example Grace, Jingyi, Anby, and etc. Power Electro is an option if you can do ultimates more than usual and want a more precise control of your uptime. I wouldn't recommend Woodpecker Electro since its stack expires after 6 seconds and you'll have to play around it a lot. 2-piece choices are either crit 2 pieces or attack percent 2 pieces. You could also go with 2-piece Power Electro for a 32% pen ratio build if you are playing with Rina and have a lot of damage percent bonus. For main stats, you'll be looking at crit slot 4 and attack percent slot 6. For slot 5, it's electric damage percent, followed by pen ratio and attack. For substat priority, go for crit rate, followed by crit damage, attack percent, and flat attack and pen. Anton's best W engine at the moment is Heartstring Nocturne. You could also go with Severed Innocence if you don't need the crit rate. Brimstone is pretty good for conventional on-field and burst comps. Starlight is his best F2P option for general use. Mercado Desire is also an option in Thunder Metal comps, and Street Superstar is also good for niche runs. One small thing about Anton, while Anton is in burst mode, if you press the EX special button, it will count as a regular special, which wouldn't give you any Woodpecker stack or activate half of Mercado's Desire's passive.
Level up her core, EX special and chain, and everything else you can leave at level 1. Either a 4-piece Astral Voice or a 4-piece Moonlight Lullaby are her best choices. Only choose 4-piece Lullaby if another character in your team wears the 4-piece Astral Voice. Either a 2-piece Swing Jazz or Hormone Punk work well on her, either for more frequent quick assists or for higher attack to hit the breakpoint. Personally, I recommend an energy regeneration piece for the 2-piece. Focus on attack percent in slot 4 and 5 and energy regeneration in slot 6. If you can hit her breakpoint of 3428 attack without attack percent in slot 4 or 5, you can also go for crit rate or even anomaly proficiency in slot 4 or pen ratio in slot 5. As for substats, attack percent and flat attack. Anything else is nice to have but not necessary. Both crit values and AP will work however. As for a weapon, her signature is her best in slot, but it is such a bad signature, the difference between it and Kaboom is only about 3%, so it is very low. Just skip the weapon and use Kaboom the cannon instead. Otherwise, Bashful Demon works as well if your attack is very low. Astra's best team is, well, every team.
Ben is often overlooked for being a defense agent with poor stun and support capabilities, but his true power lies in his ability to deal damage. Ben's strength comes from his core passive and high multipliers on EX and Chain, enabling him to dish out burst damage effectively with the right build. 4-piece Woodpecker is the best general use set as long as you maintain 2 stacks by integrating basic attacks into his stun rotations. Inferno Metal has high potential with Yuzaha if you want an easy to use set, choosing between most 2-piece sets based on substats. Slot 4 should be crit rate or crit damage, followed by pen ratio or fire damage slot 5, and attack percent slot 6. Substats to focus on are crit rate, crit damage, attack percent, then defense percent to build him like a crit DPS, with crit rate being exceptionally valuable due to abundant crit damage buffs and increasing consistency. His best engine is typically an S-rank stat stick with crit rate, such as Hailstorm Shrine, but Dragon Vessel is a great free-to-play alternative, which focuses on buffing his most valuable skills during the stun phase. Ben's optimal team at M0 is Lighter Lucy, but Lighter can't be replaced with Nicole for a free-to-play friendly version. For vertical investment, M2 Lighter is the best. Or, you can play Ben with M1 Fufu Astra for an engaging on-field playstyle.
Hey ladies and gals, Rezi here. Yep, that one guy who mains Billy. That one Billy main. Anyways, let's get started. Billy's damage relies on his ultimate, EX specials, dodge counters, and his core skill buff his damage when he enters crouching state by 50%. Therefore, you want to F him. His core skill, of course. What were you thinking? Then, after F'ing his core skill, you focus leveling up his ultimate, EX special, and dodge counters. Now, for Billy's drive disc, his best in slot is 4-piece Woodpecker. Then, for 2-piece, you can pick between Hormone Punk or Astral Voice, Buffer Electro, Fang Metal, or Branch and Blade Song. The main stats that you're looking for Billy are of the following. For disc 4, you want either crit rate or crit damage, whichever can balance your stats. For disc 5, it can be attack percent, pen ratio, or physical bonus damage. And lastly, for this 6, it's just plain attack percent. Now, let's head for the Wenjins. Your S ranks options are Brimstone, Still Cushion, aka the Backshot's Billy Wenjin, Heartstring Nocturne, Severed Innocence, and Myriad Eclipse. For A rank options, the best Wenjin you can put is the Starlight Engine Replica, which is Billy's signature. Then for free-to-play options, there's Starlight Replica and Street Superstars. Lastly, for Billy's best teammate will be out of all these choices. For S ranks, there are Astra, Caesar, Fufu, and Trigger. Then for A ranks, there is Nicole, Ultra, Lucy, or Sukaku. You can mix and match between all of those and it will work. But my personal favorite is definitely Trigger with her W engine and Nicole, aka the Defense Shred team. I hope this helps everyone who wants to play or main Billy. Anyways, Starlight Knight Rezi out. Peace!
Again, Anomaly Agent, and unless you play her crit, her skills matter less. Focus on her core first and foremost, then her EX and chain into assist and basics, and lastly into dodge. Usually you can leave her basics and dodge at level 1. A 4-piece Chaos Jazz is her best in slot, with either of Freedom Blues, Puffer Electro, Astral Voice Hormone Punk, or Inferno Metal being good choices for the 2-piece. Anomaly Proficiency in slot 4, Pen Ratio Fire Damage or Attack Percent in slot 5, and Anomaly Mastery or Attack Percent in slot 6 are her best choices. Attack Percent can win out over Anomaly Mastery in slot 6 if played with a fire-tuned Yuzuha. Energy Regeneration is always a worse choice for slot 6 compared to other options. If you are running out of heat, that is more due to management issues rather than energy issues. As for her substats, focus on Anomaly Proficiency and Attack Percent, then Flat Pen and Flat Attack. Her signature is her best in choice in terms of comfort, but other options such as Time Weaver Electro Lip Gloss and of course the good old Weeping Gemini are great choices as well and not too far off her own signature. She pairs well with Jane, Piper and Alice, and so does with Astra, Yuza or Nicole in the 3rd slot. Focus on leveling her core and assist first and foremost, then her EX special into basics and dodge, and lastly her chain. Both her ultimate and chain are utter dogshit. A 4-piece Astral Voice or 4-piece Protopunk are her best choices, with Astral Voice working exceptionally well when paired again with Astra, who is holding Lullaby. Either Freedom Blues or Chaos Jazz for Anomaly Proficiency teams, or Hormone Punk and Woodpecker for crit-based teams are great choices for her 2-piece. For specific team comps and setups, a 4-piece Freedom Blues can be a great choice as well. Focus on crit rate in slot 4, pen ratio, attack percent or physical damage in slot 5, and impact in slot 6 for the crit-based teams, and simply use Anomaly Proficiency in slot 4 for, well, Anomaly Proficiency teams. As for her substats, we want to focus either on AP or crit values, depending on the team comp, then attack percent, and lastly flat pen or flat attack. Her signature is by far her best choice, and there is no real competitive alternative. Her next best defense option is the Real Projector, but at that point just use any impact main stat stun S-rank weapon, which is usually better by default due to higher stats. Caesar's best teams are with either Corin, Alan, Soldier, Zero, Anby, Alice or Nekomata, and Astra User, Trigger or Nicole in the 3rd slot. Most of Corin's damage comes from her ultimate, chain and EX special, and hence focus on her core and chain first and foremost, then her EX special into basics, into dodge, and lastly assist. A 4-piece Hormone Punk is her best and safest choice, with a 2-piece Woodpecker, Bruncheon Blade, Puffer Electro, Fang Metal or also Astral Voice being all good other 2-piece options. For her main stats, crit rate in slot 4, pen ratio, physical damage or attack percent in slot 5, and attack percent in slot 6 all will work out well. When paired with a Death Shred agent such as Trigger with Signature or Nicole, physical damage is her best choice in slot 5. Steel Cushion is her best weapon choice, but it can be a slight pain in the ass due to the back attack condition. Other great options with honestly very similar performance are Heartstring Nocturne, Myriad Eclipse or Cordis Gamina. Her best free-to-play choices are Brimstone and Housekeeper. Corin pairs extremely well with Trigger or Fufu as well as Astra, Yuzua or Nicole. However, Corin profits heavily of Astra, and playing Corin without Astra will show a heavy drop in performance.
Ellen is an extremely versatile character. Most of Ellen's damage comes from her basics, with emphasis on third basic and Glacial Blade. Ellen heavily utilizes swap cancelling her Icy Blade, EX Special 2 and dodge counter. Her stun combo with Chain, EX and Ultimate makes nearly all of her kit usable. So for skill priority, level basic into Chain into EX, dodge and lastly assist. Ellen's best W engine is of course her signature. Hugo's Sig is also very good when Chain, Ult and EX specials are primarily used in her rotation. But when in doubt, use Brimstone or Mikado. Her best set is 4-piece Woodpecker, however 4-piece Hormone can also be situationally good. Depending on Ellen's team and in-game buff, crit damage and attack both work well for slot 4, ice damage, pin or attack for slot 5, and lastly attack for slot 6. For substats, prioritize both crit and attack percent followed by a flat attack and pin. Ellen's team generally runs a stun and a support. Her main stunners are lighter, trigger, then Lycaon, while her main supports are Astra, Nicole, and lastly Sokaku. Double support can also be a viable team.
Hello! I am Jstern25. I stream on Twitch and YouTube, and you can check out my YouTube for in-depth guides, much like Rivenous's. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Evelyn. She is a chain attack fire DPS. What makes her unique is she can access her chain attack with her enhanced basic attacks, making Evelyn's damage almost exclusively chain attack. So you're definitely going to want to make sure that you level her chain attack / ultimate above all else. Although I will mention her basic attack and special skill are also quite important. If you are able to use Evelyn's ultimate attack every stun, there are two debatable best in slot drive disc sets. They are Hormone Punk or Puffer Electro. Both of them can be directly competitive with each other, and either can be argued as her best drive disc set, but Evelyn technically does not have a signature drive disc set yet. Surely it will be in version 2.4, right? Her best two-piece drive disc options are generally going to be two-piece pen or crit, depending on what set you're using, obviously, but either one is generally good. And similarly, her best slot 5 is pen in her best team, but if you're playing Nicole, this can just as easily be fire or attack and technically be better. One important note that I want to give people about substats in Zenless is when you have a ton of crit damage, or even just a moderate amount of crit damage and a bunch of crit damage buffs, attack percent can be equal to or better than crit damage depending on how much of each stat you have. Make sure you are not neglecting attack on your characters. In Zenless, it's a really important stat, and this is just a good thing to know and be aware of. Unfortunately, Evelyn's engine options are somewhat restricted. It's primarily just Heartstring and Nocturne. That is the limited S rank engine. If you do not have Heartstring Nocturne, you can use any S rank crit engine to some success. It's unfortunate that she does not synergize very well with the standard banner available engines, but her best A rank engine is technically Marcato Desire, if you have one. Evelyn's current best team is Astra Lighter. If you do not have Lighter, you can easily use Nicole or Fufu as alternatives. I wanted to mention Nicole first because I'd rather recommend Nicole. The main time where these alternatives are comparable to Lighter is if he doesn't have his S-Rank engine. Lighter's S-Rank engine is just quite good in comparison to Fufu's, and Nicole is just such a strong agent. So yes, that is all about Evelyn. If you didn't know, most of Evelyn's actions can be swap canceled. This is a term that we use for initiating an action and then switching the active agent, so swapping characters. This is most notable for executing what we call Evelyn's ideal in-stun combo. So when you fill up the enemy's days meter, you're going to want to try to execute this. So at the start of stun, we're going to make sure that we re-up our Astra Voice, do a quick assist if you have manual chain on. Otherwise, you can. Oh well. So we're going to do one chain attack at the start of stun. Then we're going to activate the chain prompt. When you reactivate the chain prompt, that's a great opportunity to reapply Nicole's debuff or King of the Summit. Then we're going to use Evelyn's chain from the prompt. Then we're going to cancel the chain prompt, use either an enhanced basic attack, EX special, or even a special attack. The reason to use the EX special attack, the regular special attack, is because this gives Evelyn a little bit of points. So if you're just off the full meter, you can weave in a special here and get that last little bit of juice that you need to do 2 enhanced basics in a row. It's just a useful attack. Then we're gonna reactivate the chain prompt with our other agent. We're gonna use Evelyn's chain one more time. Then if we need another Garrote point, we're going to use an enhanced basic attack and then ult. The note about the enhanced basic attack here is that she gets the point as soon as she makes contact with the enemy. You do not need to wait for the entire animation. This applies to both enhanced basic 1 and enhanced basic 2. So we're going to activate the chain there. Then we're going to switch to Astra. If Astra's ult is available, we're going to ult. If Astra's ult is not available, we're going to do a quick assist after Evelyn's chain attack animation has ended. This is to reapply Astral Voice uptime, because Astral Voice does require maintenance. Unfortunate, but it does. A set with no maintenance would be the new one in version 2.2. I will also mention this. When you use Astra, there is a Astra cancel, which is holding Astra's basic attack until you see her start to spin. When Astra spins, you will still get the chain attack, but Astra will drop out of her idyllic cadenza. So you can do the chain attack on Evelyn, and then switch back to Astra without getting a chain attack from your third agent. So you can do 2 Evelyn chains guaranteed after an Astra ult. It's nice because you kind of have to wait anyway, so you might as well do this. You wait a little bit longer, but it's fine. It's fine to Ju generally. If you're super worried and you're not playing later, then you could technically just wait out and do the chain without the Astra cancel, and it can be optimal, but you do want to make sure that you get that second chain with Evelyn at some point later in the fight. Pro tip would be to make sure that you do Evelyn actions between Astra chains. So ideally that's an EX special, but it could also be enhanced basic attack. Try to do 1 chain outside of stun. This gives you more decibels and just more damage in general, and you can almost always get away with doing it. So the reason that we're so worried about decibels is Evelyn's team can do 4 stuns in, I guess, I'll just say Marionette and Pompeii. These bosses are kind of like, they're kind of weird. Okay, the reason I mention this is because Evelyn's teams can do 4 stuns on Pompeii and the notorious twin Marionette, the notorious Marionette. So to best capitalize on this, we want to make sure that we can use 4 ultimates over a clear instead of 3. This is going to be a big difference maker, and it's somewhat difficult. The other tip for ensuring this damage opportunity for ensuring this is to make sure that Evelyn is the one activating the burn anomaly. If you're unaware, when an anomaly is triggered, the active agent will receive more decibels, or the agent that triggered the anomaly will receive more decibels than the agents that are not currently active. So Evelyn's getting more decibels when she is the one activating burn. This can be important.
As per usual, as an anomaly char, her skill levels do not matter much. Focus on getting her core up to F, then her chain and EX special into assist and basics, and lastly into dodge. We are looking at the 4-piece Chaos Jazz paired with the 2-piece Phaethon's Melody as her best and most generic build. But a 4-piece Freedom Blues paired with a 2-piece Buffer Electro is a great choice as well, if you can maintain Freedom Blues uptime. Anomaly Proficiency in slot 4, Pen Ratio in slot 5, and Anomaly Mastery in slot 6 are her best options. For her substats, focus on Anomaly Proficiency and Attack percent first and foremost, then Flat Pen and Flat Attack. For her W engine, her own signature, Fusion Compiler, is her best choice, unless you have Yanagi's signature Time Weaver, in which case it can be just a little bit better. Other good options include Flight of Fancy and Electrolip Gloss, with Weeping Gemini not only being the closest to her own signature in terms of performance, but also free to play accessible by simply being, well, craftable. Grace pairs well with Alice, Miyabi, and Vivian within Disorder teams and appreciates Yixuan, Nicole, Astra, or Trigger in the 3rd slot. She can be played with a Mono Shock team with Yanagi and Rina, in which case you are also looking at Attack percent in slot 6 over Anomaly Mastery. Lastly, she also has a place in an Anton Shock team with, well, Anton and either Astra, Nicole, or Rina. Half of Harumasa's damage is from his dash attacks, and hence we want to focus first on his core and dodge, then his basics and chain, into EX special, and lastly assist. A 4-piece Thunder Metal is his best choice, albeit maintaining 100% uptime requires quite a bit of planning. Other valid 4-piece choices are Woodpecker or Shadow Harmony, as well as Hormone Punk. For the 2-piece, either of Hormone Punk or Estful Voice, Woodpecker or Branch and Blade Song will work well. As a small note on the 4-piece Shadow Harmony and 2-piece Woodpecker, it is relatively easy to overcap on crit rate, and hence I would not recommend it over other choices. Crit damage in slot 4 and attack percent in both slot 5 and 6 are his best generic choices. A triple attack percent layout or electric damage or pen ratio in slot 5 will work as well, depending on your team. As for his substats, focus on crit rate until a maximum of 75% in the stat screen, then attack percent and crit damage, and lastly flat pen and flat attack. When playing with Trigger or Nicole, pen ratio in slot 5 becomes a worse choice. As for his weapons, when played with other defense threat units such as Nicole or Trigger with her signature, Cordis Gamina can actually be slightly better than his own signature. However, it provides so much crit rate that building him can become more difficult as well. Otherwise, stick with his signature or one of the other stat stick options. His best free-to-play options are Brimstone and Markato Desire. Lastly, Harumasa pairs extremely well with Chingy, Trigger, Nicole and Astra. Hugo's damage relies on Totalize and hence his core skill. Prioritize to level his core skill, then EX special and chain, then basics into assist and lastly dodge. Hugo takes the field only during the stun window, and hence a 4-piece Hormone Punk is his best choice. Paired with either a 2-piece Woodpecker, Branch and Blade, Estful Voice, Polar Metal or Puffer Electro. For on-field Hugo, especially at Mindscape 6, a 4-piece Woodpecker is a good choice as well. All his damage is condensed into one singular Totalize hit, so we do want to make sure that this one hit actually crits. So focus on crit rate for slot 4, ice damage for slot 5 and attack percent in slot 6. Pen ratio and attack percent in slot 5 will work as well, especially if you have much better crit rate substats on those, and the same applies to his substats. Focus on crit rate until you're close to 100% in combat, and then crit damage and attack percent, and lastly flat pen and flat attack. He does gain 12% in combat crit rate from his core, so try to not go over 88% crit rate in this stat screen. His signature is his best in slot, followed by Deep Sea Visitor and Heartstring Nocturne. His best free-to-play choice is Markato Desire, and Steel Cushion will work as well. I recommend crit rate W engines over other choices, as missing a crit on his Totalize is, well, not good. His best team is with Lighter and Lycaon, but other team options such as Trigger or Chingy will work as well. Jane's damage comes from anomaly procs, and hence her skill priority and levels outside of her core do not matter as much. If you want to optimize her damage, however, focus on her core first and foremost, then her chain and EX, into basics and dodge, into assist. A 4-piece Fanged Metal is her best choice with no real other alternative. For the 2-piece, either Phaethon's Melody, Freedom Blues or Chaos Jazz will be her best choices, with Astral Voice, Hormone Punk or Puffer Electro being very valid as well if you have a good amount of AP substats on them. For slot 4, we are looking at Anomaly Proficiency with pen ratio or physical damage in slot 5 and Anomaly Mastery or attack percent in slot 6. When playing without Yuzua, a 2-piece Phaethon's or Anomaly Mastery in slot 6 is by far her best choice. For her substats, focus on Anomaly Proficiency until you hit the 420 in combat breakpoint, then attack percent and lastly flat pen and flat attack. Having more AP than 420 is not a bad thing, however, just it is sometimes a little bit hard to acquire attack percent on her, so that's a thing. Her best in slot weapon is actually Alice's signature weapon, Practiced Perfection, with her own signature coming in second place. The actual difference is though not as high, however Perfection is much easier to play. Other great options include Time Weaver, Fusion Compiler and Electro Lip Gloss, and Weeping Gemini is her best free-to-play option. Jane's best team is with Vivian and Yuzua at M0, but at Mindscape 2 or higher she pairs extremely well with Alice and Yuzua in a mono-physical team. Other team options include Burnice and Yanagi, with either again Yuzua, Astra or Nicole in the third slot. Over half of Fufu's days and damage comes from her chain and ultimate, which leaves our skill priority at core and chain into EX and basics into assist and dodge. We can leave her dodge at level 1. For her 4-piece we are looking at King of the Summit in 90% of the cases, but a 4-piece Astral Voice, Swing Jazz or Protopunk can work as well in some very specific niche scenarios. For her 2-piece we want either a 2-piece Shockstar Disco, Woodpecker Electro Swing Jazz or Astral Voice. Choose Shockstar for the highest days, Woodpecker if you have trouble hitting the 50% crit rate threshold for King of the Summit, Swing Jazz for very specific niche scenarios where you do need the 20% energy regeneration, and Astral Voice or Homonpunk for higher initial attack to max out her buff. We want crit rate in slot 4, attack percent in slot 5 and impact or attack percent in slot 6. Choose attack percent over impact if you have low initial attack and impact does not lead you to another stun window. If impact and slot gives you another additional stun window however, it is usually the better choice. As for her weapons, her signature grants you the quality of life and ease of build for her to max out her personal damage and her buff, but both Blazing Laurel and Fossil can be better in terms of days. Fufu is made for Yixuan, but she also pairs very well with Evelyn, Corin, Soldier 11, Nekomata, and honestly most attackers. As for the third slot, she can be paired with Orphie or Lighter for specific team comps, but Astra, again, Nicole or Lucy are the usual contenders.
Koleda's stun mostly comes from her EX skill and ultimate, meaning you'll want to level those first before even trying to level anything else. A popular order would be core, EX skill, ultimate, dodge, assist, and then finally her basics. Her dodge counter is actually the strongest in the game. For discs, you're going to want a 4-piece King of the Summit, or if you're pairing her with Astra, you could go Astral Voice with Astra having Lullaby. 2-piece Shockstar Disco, Woodpecker, or honestly any 2-piece set would work to round her out. Slot 4, you're going to want to go crit rate, fire damage, or pin ratio, attack percent slot 5, and finally impact for slot 6. Substats are what you'd expect, with that being crit values into attack percent, and lastly flat pin or flat attack. For W Engine, her best option would actually be Blazing Laurel if you have it, otherwise Hellfire Gears is a great choice since it's her signature. Free-to-play options would be the Precious Fossilized Core or Steam Oven. Koleda works best with Evelyn or Soldier 11, as they will be able to benefit with the extra chain attack damage and proc their additional core passives as well, with the support being either Astra, Nicole, or Lucy.
Lighter is an agent with a pretty simple game plan for most of his teams. You basically just want to build and spin his morale at least once every stun to make sure that you're maintaining his damage percent buffs and his res shred, while also making sure that the final finisher punch hits the enemy to apply collapse, which will extend the stun bar by additional 3 seconds. And trust me, you do not want to miss that punch. His skill priority will be core, basics, EX, and chain and assist being about equal to each other, and then you'll level up the dodge counter last. But truth be told, all of his skills do contribute to his days greatly. Now when it comes to his drive disc sets, you will almost always want to use King of the Summit, as all of his current best teams are crit based, and Lighter has a very low cost EX being only 40 energy, allowing him to keep the buff up very effectively without having to use his chain attack and stun. And for the 2-piece, just go for 2-piece Shockstar if you can, and just use 2-piece Woodpecker if you need the crit rate for King of the Summit. For main stats, use crit rate on the 4th slot, attack, fire, or pin on the 5th slot, and the 6th slot will always be impact. And when looking for substats for these drive discs, make sure you treat Lighter just like an attack agent and look for crit rate, crit damage, and attack percent. When looking at engines, his own engine will be his best in slot, Blazing Laurel, providing a massive impact increase, as well as 30 crit damage for fire and ice agents. The next best will be Hellfire Gears, as you can stack the passive by using EX specials, which will increase Lighter's impact, allowing him to give the full buff for the team. An honorable mention will be Ice J Teapot if you somehow have it, as it can also allow a Lighter to get enough impact for his full buff. And the free-to-play option will be Steam Oven, because unlike Precious Fossilized Core, Steam Oven can increase his impact while also giving energy, allowing him to use his EX special more often. Now for his teams, slotting in any fire or attack ice DPS with a support agent will be his current best option. But if you want to run him with other agents who aren't attack, you will need to have Caesar or Lucy in the last slot to do so, as having Lighter's additional ability active is non-negotiable. But maybe there's someone in the very near future that can make it just a little bit easier to have his additional ability active.
Prioritize on leveling her core skill and EX special first and foremost, then her chain and basics, and lastly her assist into dodge. You can again leave the dodge at level 1. As for her disk drives, a 4-piece Moonlight Lullaby is her best choice, but either of Astral Voice, Swing Jazz or Protopunk in that order can work as well. For the 2-piece, either of Swing Jazz, Hormone Punk, Astral Voice, Freedom Blues, Chaos Jazz, Inferno Metal or Puffer Electro will all do well enough, choose whatever has better substats. Lucy requires 2265 initial attack to max out her buff at skill level 12 and 1922 attack at skill level 16. Focus on crit rate or anomaly proficiency in slot 4, depending on your team, then fire damage attack percent or pen ratio in slot 5, and either of attack percent, energy regeneration, impact, or anomaly mastery in slot 6. Choose energy regeneration in slot 6 when running Astral Voice, impact if it helps you reach a certain stun break point, be it earlier to match decibels and rotations or an additional stun window, and anomaly mastery for anomaly teams if you need additional fire anomaly build up. All of these are quite niche however. As for substats, go first and foremost for crit values or anomaly proficiency, again depending on your team, then attack percent, and lastly flat pen and flat attack. Kaboom the Cannon is her signature weapon and usually her best in slot. Elegant Vanity, Weeping Cradle or Unfettered Game Ball, that is the Battle Pass weapon, are all great choices as well however. Lucy is an extremely generic support and fits into essentially every team in the game. Lycaon is a versatile stunner whose main daze application comes from his basics, ultimate and EX special. Hence, for his skill priority, focus on his core first, then his chain basics and EX special, and lastly his assist and dodge. Depending on the team, the actual daze distribution might actually change. Lycaon appreciates King of the Summit as much as the next stunner, but Astral Voice, either when paired with Astra or also Swing Jazz, are great other choices for mono ice teams specifically. For the 2-piece, we are optimally looking at the 2-piece Swing Jazz or Moonlight Lullaby to guarantee he has enough energy for his EX specials when in need. Crit rate in slot 4, ice damage in slot 5 and impact in slot 6 are his best generic choices, but for mono ice specifically, anomaly mastery in slot 6 is what you are looking for. For his weapons, either one of the listed will do, however for mono ice teams yet again you need an energy regeneration main stat and hence Steam Oven is his best choice for that team. As already mentioned a few times now, Lycaon has a set place within a Miyabi Sokaku mono ice team, at least if you do not have Yixuan that is. Otherwise he works very well with Ellen and Hugo and he appreciates Astra, Nicole or Lighter in the 3rd slot.
For Miyabi's abilities, level her core skill, basic attack, chain attack, special attack, assist, then her dodge, but overall since she's the best DPS in the game, you're better off leveling everything anyway. For sets, Miyabi's best 4-piece is the set released with her launch, Branch and Blade Song, but for 2-piece sets, Woodpecker, Polar Metal, Puffer, or any other offensive stat providing effect will work as well. For main stats, you're looking for crit rate or attack percent main, ice damage, attack percent or pen ratio for 5, and attack percent or anomaly mastery on your 6th slot, depending on your build, W engine, and team lineup. For substats, Miyabi ideally wants 80% crit rate at a minimum so that she can make full use of her passive, but afterward, any combination of crit damage, attack percent, or crit rate will work, with flat attack, pen, and anomaly proficiency honestly not being too bad either if you happen to get random rolls into them as well. Regarding her W engine choices, she fortunately or unfortunately has one of the most unique and impactful W engines in the game, since it's the only anomaly engine to currently provide crit rate. But this also means that her alternative options like Fusion Compiler, Electro Lip Gloss, Rainforest Gourmet, or even Weeping Gemini are noticeably worse. When it comes to teams, Miyabi's best lineups typically make use of Freeze because of how strong it is, and as a result, teams like Miyabi Sokaku Yuzaha or Miyabi Lycaon Sokaku will perform the best, especially if you learn how to use manual chains. But that said, Miyabi will still perform amazingly if you choose to pair her with characters like Yanagi, Vivian, or even Alice. It just depends on how comfortable you are with the game and which boss you're fighting.
When leveling up Nekomata skills, your top priority is her core skill. Follow up with basics and special into chains and dodges, leaving us as your last priority. For these sets, the best for piece is Woodpecker Electro. Fanged Metal works, but it's not so good since Nekomata build up slow, and she already gets plenty of damage buffs from her kit and other sources. As for the two-piece, you can use Astral Voice, Hormone Punk, Perfect Electro, Fanged Metal, or Branching Blade Song. There's a lot of options, so just pick whatever you have with the best stats. Speaking of stats, you should look for crit damage on slot 4, penetration ratio or physical damage on slot 5, and attack on slot 6. For substats, your top priority is the classic combo of crit rate, attack, and crit damage with flat penetration, anomaly proficiency, and flat attack down below. Now for weapons, surprisingly, her signature engine is the best in slot, which by the way has amazing synergy with her Mindscape one. Corin's Gemina is also an option since a lot of her damage comes from basics, and as a bonus, you also increase her ultimate damage, but it's still not beating her signature engine. If you don't have either, Brimstone or any engine with crit stats can help you increase your damage. For teams, a stunner with low fill time is the perfect option, so Trigger, Fufu, and Pulchra are amazing picks. For the third slot, use a good support unit such as Astra, Nicole, or Lucy. You can also replace the stunner with another support or even Seed. Yes, you heard it right. You can use Nekomata as a battery for Seed. Use weapons such as Housekeeper or even Metanuki Morphosis and stack with energy regeneration on slot 6. You can go even further and use Astral Voice 4-piece on Nekomata and use the Moonlight Lullaby on the support unit of your choice.
ALG here, and Riv wants me to tell you to F your Nicole. In other words, her core skill is most important, as the defense shred that she provides is here. After this, her priorities are to upgrade her EX and then ult/chain and defensive assist. EX and then ult/chain will get used regularly, and her defensive assist is surprisingly good for building up days. Her new best in slot set is going to be the 2.2 set Moonlight Lullaby for the 4-piece. 2 pieces of attack or AP will work, but considering that this set relies on EX specials and ults for the buff, you'll now be able to use the 2-piece Swing Jazz for the additional energy. And if you already have a decent 4-piece Swing or Astral Voice, they can stay until you farm the new set, or if someone else on the team is already holding Moonlight Lullaby. Nicole's stats matter quite a lot less than DPS style agents, so we won't go too deep. You'll want energy on the 6th slot, and then consider her personal damage for slots 4 and 5. Either damage bonus or attack on 5th will be fine, and attack is preferred on 4th, but AP or even crit may be valid. Her Wenjin, the Vault, is perfect for her, increasing damage from teammates and providing some ER back to Nicole. Other support A-rank engines can do the job though, with Kaboom being the standout option with an ER advanced stat if you just haven't got the Vault. And lastly, her teams are literally any team that isn't Rupture, and even then she still provides 25% ether damage bonus, so in a pinch she could still be used with Yixuan. She'll excel most with attack characters and doesn't need her additional ability to be effective, as she'll only lose out on that ether damage bonus, which won't matter when not running her with ether teammates. Her defense shred will still be provided. Long live Nicole, Queen of Defense Shred.
Let's be honest, you probably skipped here for Orphie calcs anyway, so welcome. Let me preface this by saying that all calculations are preliminary, not final, and subject to change. I did not have enough time to play her yet, and there might be mistakes in the calculations. Hence, take them with a big grain of salt and treat them as first impressions for the sole purpose of giving you a rough idea on what to expect. Again, they are not final. That said, a disgustingly large portion of her damage comes from her EX specials, and hence her skill priority are core and EX into chain and basics into assist and dodge. We can leave her dodge at level 1 unless you on-field her as a main DPS. Her arguably best 4-piece is Estful Voice when paired with Astra, who is holding Lullaby. Otherwise, a 4-piece Shadow Harmony is her generally next best in slot choice for other teams, such as with Trigger. For the 2-piece, either Lullaby or Swing Jazz are non-negotiable, as she scales off energy regeneration and we want as much as we can get. For her main stats, we are looking at crit damage or attack percent in slot 4 when running a crit rate weapon, otherwise crit rate is a good choice as well. For slot 5, either attack percent or fire damage are her best choices, and for slot 6 we want yet again energy regeneration. As for her substats, focus on crit values and attack percent, then flat attack and flat pen. Her signature is unsurprisingly her best on slot, but because she deals around 30% of the total team's damage, depending on your builds and matchup of course, her weapon matters less when looking at it within a team context. Go and check out my Orphie guide when it is released. As for Orphie's teams, well, going off the livestream and currently public information, she pairs well with Aftershock units such as Fufu, Soldier Zero Anby and Trigger, as well as being a fantastic pair for Siege. Not only due to the attack buffs she provides, but also because of her energy consumption and hence steel charge she can funnel to Seed. Other possible pairs include but are not limited to Soldier 11, Astra and as per usual, our winner, Nicole.
As the wise master Hugo once said, one must reach 3000 attack to maximize one's sheer force buff. Kung Fu Panda, aka Pan Yinhu's entire job is to buff Yixuan, and for everyone else there's MasterCard. His only goal in life is to use his EX special to provide all his panda related buffs. For his skill priority, level his core and then his EX and chain and assist. You can leave his dodge and basics at the default level 1 panda. 4-piece Astral Voice, 4-piece Swing Jazz, or 4-piece Proto Punk are all good on him, with slot 4 attack percent or crit, slot 5 attack percent, and slot 6 energy regen. His best Wenjin is Caesar's Tusks of Fury, though his own works fine if you're short on resources. His best and honestly only team is Panda plus Yixuan plus anyone else like fellow trainee Fufu, a random pop star Astra Yao, and a biker gang leader Caesar. So yeah, like any other panda, Pan Yinhu is a one-trick panda. For now, only buffing Yixuan, but perhaps in the future he might buff other Rupture agents.
Piper's damage comes from assault procs and hence her skill priority and levels outside of her core do yet again not matter much. Albeit her multiplayers are surprisingly high, so it matters slightly more than with other anomaly units. Focus on her core first and foremost, then her chain and EX into basics and dodge, and lastly into assist. A 4-piece Fanged Metal is her best choice, with either a Phaethon's Melody, Freedom Blues or Chaos Jazz being her best choices for the 2-piece, with Astral Voice, Hormone Punk or Puffer Electro being very valid as well if you have a good amount of anomaly proficiency substats on them. For slot 4 we are looking at anomaly proficiency with pen ratio or attack percent in slot 5 and anomaly mastery or attack percent in slot 6. With Yuzua, especially if you are running Alice's Vengeance, focus on attack percent in slot 6, and if the Deadly Assault buff provides defense threat, prioritize attack percent in slot 5 over pen ratio. For her substats, focus on anomaly proficiency and attack percent, and lastly flat pen and flat attack. Her best in slot weapon is also, and yet again, Alice's signature Practice Perfection. It is very good on her. That weapon is just simply too good. Anyway, other options include Sharpened Stinger, Time Weaver Fusion Compiler, and Electro Lip Gloss, with Weeping Gemini as her best free-to-play option. Piper's by far best team is with Vivian and Yuzua, and her performance will drop massively without Vivian. Other team options, however, include Burnice and Yanagi with either Yuzua, Astra or Nicole in the 3rd slot, and of course the team can clear well. Just if you want to kill, maybe that is hard without Vivian. Pulchra's days and damage primarily come from her aftershock attacks, which are her specials, as well as her ultimate, and hence her skill priority is core skill into EX and chain into assist. We can leave both her basics and dodge at level 1. For her 4-piece we are looking at a 4-piece King of the Summit, but Shadow Harmony works as well if you are looking at higher damage in exchange for a little bit less days. I do not recommend a 4-piece Shockstar Disco. None of her days comes from her basics after all. For the 4-piece, either a 2-piece Shockstar, Astral Voice or Woodpecker are her best choices, with Woodpecker making her easier to build and reach the 50% crit rate threshold for King of the Summit. As far as we are concerned for her main stats, we want crit rate in slot 4, physical damage, pen ratio or attack percent in slot 5 and impact in slot 6. For her substats, we focus on crit rate until 50%, then crit damage, attack percent, and lastly flat pen and flat attack. Her signature is honestly a great choice for her weapon and only slightly superseded by Hellfire Gears and Blazing Laurel. Fossil is her best free-to-play choice. Pulchra pairs well with Yixuan, Soldier Zero, Anby, Nekomata, Soldier 11 or even Corin, and appreciates Astra, Lucy or Nicole in the 3rd slot. Jingyi's days comes mainly from her enhanced basic attacks and her basic 3, and hence her skill priority is core skill into basics, EX and chain, into dodge and lastly assist. Depending on the aggressiveness of the enemy, you might find yourself using assist and dodge more frequently, which can make them a good investment as well, and hence I recommend investing into all of her skills at least a little bit. For the 4-piece set, King of the Summit is her best choice, but either a 4-piece Astral Voice when played with Astra or even a 2-piece Swing Jazz can be valid choices as well, albeit Swing Jazz is usually a worse choice outside some niche situations. For the 2-piece, either a 2-piece Shockstar for higher days or a 2-piece Woodpecker to easily hit the 50% crit rate threshold of King of the Summit is recommended, but other choices will work as well. Crit rate in slot 4, attack percent, electric damage or pen ratio in slot 5, and impact in slot 6 are her best choices. As for her substats, focus yet again on crit values and attack percent first and foremost, and lastly flat pen and flat attack. Her signature is her best generic choice, but speaking purely in terms of days, depending on your score goal and team, Blazing Laurel or Fossil can outperform her signature by just a bit. Jingyi pairs well with Harumasa, Zhu Yuan and Yixuan and appreciates Astra or Nicole in the 3rd slot, but she is generic enough to work for most teams even without her additional ability. Rina's support capabilities lie in extending shock uptime and providing a portion of her own pen ratio to teammates, and that mainly depends on her core skill and, well, her stats. Hence her skill priority is her core into EX and chain into assist, and lastly dodge and basics. Her dodge and basic levels don't matter too much, and unless you care about days and her personal damage, neither do her EX or chain. Her best in slot is Astral Voice if paired with Astra who runs Lullaby, otherwise a 4-piece Moonlight Lullaby is her best in slot and what I would recommend on her. For the 2-piece Puffer Electro is frankly her only choice as we want to stack as much pen ratio on her as possible. We are looking at crit rate, attack percent or anomaly proficiency in slot 4 depending on your team, with a non-negotiable pen ratio in slot 5 and optimally energy regeneration in slot 6. For her substats, focus on crit or AP, again depending on the team, as well as attack percent, and lastly flat pen and flat attack. Her own signature, Weeping Cradle, is her best in slot and I would highly recommend getting it if you plan on playing her. The craftable W Engine Slice of Time is her next best free-to-play option, but if you have an R5 Kaboom the Cannon, I would recommend playing that one over Slice of Time. Up to 16% combat attack is better than an additional 5% pen ratio. Rina pairs well with Yanagi due to extending shock uptime and hence allowing for higher disorder damage, as well as Anton and Harumasa, but she works well with any DPS agent in the game and she does not care too much about her additional ability either. For Seed skill priority, watch my guide. Jokes aside, we are looking first and foremost at her core skill, then basics into chain and EX into assist and lastly dodge. Her best and recommended 4-piece is Dawn's Bloom, with a 4-piece Woodpecker or Hormone Punk being a fine but still slightly inferior choice. As for the 2-piece, either a 2-piece Woodpecker for the ease of build or a 2-piece Branch and Blade, Astral Voice, Hormone Punk, Thunder Metal or Puffer Electro will work. We are looking at crit rate in slot 4, electric damage attack percent or pen ratio in slot 5, and attack percent in slot 6. Try to hit as close to 100% crit rate as possible. If you can do so without crit rate in slot 4, crit damage is another superior choice as well. For her substats, focus on crit values first, then attack percent, and lastly flat pen and flat attack. Her signature is her best in slot choice, with Heartstring Nocturne and Myriad Eclipse being her second best choices. Her best free-to-play weapon is Marcato Desire, and Brimstone can do well when played without Astra as well. Her recommended teams include, but are not limited to, Soldier Zero Anby, Evelyn and Ellen, with Orphie being probably her best teammate. As for the 3rd slot, Astra, Trigger or Nicole will suit her well.
So Seth is all about helping you as the player control the battlefield while offering strong anomaly buffs and shields to the entire team. There's some tech to making that happen, so of course pushing his core skill to level 7 is ideal, and most of his field control comes from the power his EX skill holds and the different uses from the quick charge version. Because of this, maximizing the skill should be one of your first priorities. then spreading out his ultimate, defensive assist, and basic attack levels for all the increased multipliers. Seth is also super free to play friendly with builds, letting you work out multiple 4-piece sets like Astral, Protopunk, Freedom Blues, or even Swing Jazz. His 2-piece can almost be anything in the game, but I find myself using Shockstar or Swing Jazz the most. For slot 4, we're rocking Anomaly Proficiency or Attack Percent depending on your team. Disc 5 should be Attack Percent or Electric for the same reasons, and Disc 6 should almost always be Anomaly Mastery, but Energy Regen and Impact Seth can be stronger options for more put together teams. For substats, you ideally want somewhere near 3,000 attacks since his shields given are dependent on his attack stat. The AP should be between 200 to 300 points as well. Now Peacekeeper is his signature W engine and benefits him the most, but a lot of us players have been using Caesar's engine if we have it for the extra impact and the higher attack stat. Lastly, Seth best operates in an anomaly team featuring Jane Doe, Rina, or Yanagi. Due to him being so universal for anomaly teams though, his options that he helps excel expand to almost every anomaly agent in the game. In fact, I think he actually does work with everyone. Seth is an absolute monster in the right hands.
So you want your Soldier 11 to be the best? Well, you're in the right place. Most of her damage comes from her basic attack, her skill, and her ultimate. So this is going to make our skill leveling priority being the core at the most important, then going into the basic attack, the skill, and the ultimate talent all at an equal priority, while the lowest priority being on the dodge and the assist. For her best disc, 4-piece Woodpecker with a 2-piece combo of Branch and Blade, Puffer Electro, Astral Voice, or Hormone Punk is going to be your go-to. However, you can also use a 4-piece Hormone Punk in some scenarios as well with the previous mentioned 2-piece combos. Because her damage bonus is already so saturated, I don't recommend using Seed's new set, the Dawn Bloom, even though it gives such a crazy amount of basic attack damage bonus. For her main stats, we are looking at crit rate or crit damage in slot 4, a pen ratio or attack percent in slot 5, and attack percent in slot 6. When looking for subs, focus on crit values first, then start looking for attack percent, and lastly, flat pen or flat attack. Her best weapon choices are the Heartstring Nocturne, the Brimstone, and you can also go for the Myriad Eclipse or the Severed Innocent. For the free-to-play choices, you can either go something like the Starlight Engine or the Mercado Desire. Her absolute god comp is going to be her with Lighter and Astra, but these are also some good teammates you can pair up with your Soldier 11 as well, being Orpheus, Fufu, Nicole, Koleda, or Lucy.
So Kaku is nowadays primarily used within mono ice teams as an anomaly provider and secondary buffer, and hence her skill priority does not matter as much outside her EX. Focus on her core and EX first and foremost, then her chain, and lastly basics, dodge and assist. Her EX provides very important days build up, which makes this skill actually important to level. Her best and only 4-piece choice is a 4-piece Freedom Blues paired with a 2-piece Swing Jazz. Due to increasing anomaly build-ups and given the tight requirements for this comp, this is the only possible build option. We are looking at anomaly proficiency in slot 4, attack percent, pen ratio or ice damage bonus in slot 5, and anomaly mastery in slot 6. We are also looking to hit at least 2500 attack in the stat screen. Use attack percent main stats in slot 4 and 5 if necessary. For her weapons, either Kaboom, the Cannon or Unfettered Game Ball are her best and only choices, as we do rely on the energy regeneration main stat. Sokaku mono ice teams consist of, well, Sokaku, Miyabi and either Lycaon or Yixuan in the last slot. This team is harder to play with Lycaon than it is with Yixuan, but he is easily obtainable from selectors or standard banners. So that's a thing. Yixuan is again easier to play, but more expensive on your wallet. Mono Ice is one of the harder teams to play, so go and check out April's video here. A link is in the description. 60% of triggers, days and damage comes solely from her basics, and hence her skill priority is core and basics into EX and chain, into assist, and lastly dodge. We can leave the dodge at level 1. Trigger's best in slot set is King of the Summit, albeit an argument can be made for running a 4-piece S-Full Voice on her if paired with Astra, who yet again is running Lullaby, or even in anomaly proficiency teams. For higher days, a 4-piece Shockstar Disco or a 4-piece Shadow Harmony for higher damage are also good choices. Crit rate in slot 4, electric damage in slot 5, and either attack percent or impact on slot 6 are her best choices. For Anomaly Proficiency teams, you can forego all of her crit rate on her and run Anomaly Proficiency in slot 4 instead. If you feel like you are stunning too quickly, prioritize attack percent over impact on slot 6. As for her substats, focus on crit rate first and foremost until around 90%, then crit damage and attack percent, and lastly flat pen and flat attack. Her signature is her best in slot in terms of damage, and trigger feels like only half an agent without it. If you mainly care about days, however, Teapot, Blazing Laurel and Core are one of her better choices. Trigger's best team include, but again are not limited to, Seed, Soldier Zero Anby and Alice, and she pairs also really well with Nicole and Astra. Nearly all of Vivian's damage comes from her core, as well as Anomaly and Disorder procs, so we mainly really only care about leveling her core. If you want to optimize her damage further, focus then on her chain into EX special and basics and assist. We leave her dodge at level 1, it's wasted resources. Please note her assist and EX can inflict meaningful days, which can make leveling them worth it for the days alone. For her 4-piece, we are looking at a 4-piece Phaethons, with either a 2-piece Freedom Blues or Chaos Jazz being her best choice. Other 2-piece options include Chaotic Metal, Puffer Electro or Astral Voice. For slot 4, we want Anomaly Proficiency, with either Ether Damage, Attack Percent or Pen Ratio in slot 5 and Anomaly Mastery or Attack Percent in slot 6. Since Vivian scales massively of Anomaly Proficiency, take whatever disc has the most AP substats, and speaking of which, focus on Anomaly Proficiency for your substats. Attack percent, flat pen and flat attack are all not wasted and they are good, but Anomaly Proficiency is always better with nearly no diminishing returns. For slot 6 I recommend Anomaly Mastery over attack percent, but both work. Her signature is her best in slot, but an R5 Weeping Gemini is incredibly close in performance, so I would not necessarily recommend pulling for her signature. Unless you like the glowing hair, in that case, well, pull her signature. Vivian pairs well with all Anomaly agents, and she does appreciate Yuzua, Astra or Nicole in the 3rd slot.
Hey Broxies, it's your boy Josh, and we're rounding out the cast talking about Yanagi. Yanagi is one of my favorites, aside from Trigger, and editor, whoever's photo is, whoever creator who's covering Trigger on the screen right now. Yeah, that guy or girl, yeah, I got a bone to pick with you, buddy, okay? You are dead to me. But for Yanagi, what's amazing is her incredible flexibility with her on and off field gameplay. And I know you're tired of hearing all the critters say, F this agent, F that agent, don't worry. Cause it doesn't change with Yanagi, baby, F-er, oh yeah, baby. Then after the core, her skill prios are the special, ults, basics of the world, and even the dodges and assists thereafter. As for builds, let's focus on the Chaos Jazz 4 set and Anomaly Proficiency in the 2 slot. Yet there's something to be said that without the signature, we could run AM, but better to stick with her basics. And also don't forget about the Thunder Metal, which is a popular pick, especially for Mono Electric. Then let's rock AP on the 4 slot, Pen on 5 with considerations of attack and electric depending on substat allocation and rolls, and Anomaly Mastery in the 6th slot. Wenjin choices come down to a few options ranging from her classic Time Weaver with the Fusion Compilers and S5 Weepings not far behind alongside these other options. And if we're talking teams, my personal favorite has to be the Mono Electric variations. They're so fast and electrifying. Yet the classical disorder squads that include the Miyabis, Vivians, Burnices, or maybe even Alice in Chains of the world might suit your fancy. And who could forget about supports? Because Yanagi is attack and AP focused, let's support those double Gs. With Astra Yao, who arguably HP inflation or the patch after, then Yuzuha is our new age anomaly buffer with Nicole and Rina for the more budget F2P options. What Yanagi amongst most of the ZZ cast represent is the flexibility for the player to mold them to different niches and playstyles. And few say that they can, while doing so with a miniskirt and forward heels.
Yixuan, or Void Hunter in orbit name, has a well-rounded kit, which means she demands a fair amount of investment. Her EX special, ultimate and core passive are by far the most important, with skill modifiers doubling between levels 1 and 12, and core passive providing up to 60% damage bonuses for her skills, as well as a lot of crit rate and health. Given she scales off of health, that's a pretty big deal. After you've leveled those 3, basic attack and dodge should follow, with assist being left for last. With her scaling off of health, Yunqui Tails is the drive disc set to use on her, and not just for the 2-piece, but 4-piece too. being tailor-made for Yixuan with a sheer damage % increase, a bonus that sees little saturation. As for the 2-piece, Woodpecker Electro is likely going to be best. But if you're maxing out on crit rate already, then in order of effectiveness, Branch and Blade Song, Chaotic Metal, Astral Voice or Hormone Punk can be used instead. Main stat wise, you want to run crit rate or crit damage in slot 4, ether damage bonus or HP % in slot 5, and HP % in slot 6. Ether damage should be marginally better than HP % at a default level, but after factoring in buffs from endgame content, like Deadly Assault, HP % can pull out ahead. As a Rupture unit, Yixuan has her hands tied in terms of Vengeance. Her signature is huge for her, with HP % main stat as well as crit rate, damage %, and sheer damage % bonuses. But barring that, the Battle Pass Vengeance, Radiant Wave Journey, will be her best choice. If you don't have it at P5 though, then Puzzle Sphere, the craftable option, will be better if at P5. But with Rupture units coming in the future, their Vengeance may work for Yixuan too, so keep an eye out. For teams, Yixuan works best with Fufu and Pan Yinhu or Astra, but she can work with many others too. Even though Nicole's Death Shred does nothing for Yixuan, she's still a strong pick for her damage % bonuses and Decibel generation alone. In a similar vein, Trigger and Qingyi both, even without her additional abilities active, can do well too, and if you've only got A ranks, Pokra will fill in a slot just fine. There's no harm in mixing and matching units, like Yixuan Trigger Astra, Yixuan Pan Qingyi, or even the tried and true Astra Nicole. Although Yixuan may not have formally accepted the Void Hunter title, she's certainly one in style, with a high skill ceiling and plenty of saucy combos to go with it. Yixuan has many combo routes, with a lot of potential for minute optimizations. I've covered them extensively, but for now, let's stick with her bread and butter combo. You'll likely want the Adrenaline meter to be 3/4 full, although the exact amount depends on the comp, and be very close or maxed out on Yixuan's technique points. When the enemy's close to stun, hold basic attack to begin using the Cloud Shaper React special. Once stun begins, let go and use a Talisman Ultimate. There's a timing to it, not too fast, not too slow, but it soon becomes second nature once you get the hang of it. The ultimate should start just as a little flash in the Cloud Shaper orb appears. Although you shouldn't be reacting to that, you know you've got it right when you see it. Doing this will bring up a chain prompt mid-ultimate, letting you use another character's chain without taking up Yixuan's combo time. Who you chain to, how many times you chain, and how long you wait on the menu depends on the comp. With Trigger Astra, you're safe to go into both of them straight away, then back to Yixuan. With Pan Pokra, you want to go into Pokra, wait a bit, then quick assist to Pan so he triggers a chain back to Yixuan as her ultimate finishes. With Fufu, you go to her and then back to Yixuan. It's usually okay to not dawdle on the chain prompt menu, but if you started the Talisman ultimate early, being too fast may mean one of the hits miss, so there's no harm in waiting a bit. Once you're back on Yixuan, use her Decibel ultimate. If you've got a character that can quick assist, like Astra, Pan, Pokra, Nicole, and so on, you can hold the dodge button to go into Yixuan's Auric Array. This will regenerate her adrenaline and do some decent damage. While she casts, swap to another character and then use a skill that quick assists back to Yixuan. If the skill is an ultimate, like Astra's or Nicole's, then all the better, as that gives Yixuan even more adrenaline generation. Once back on Yixuan, the rest of the combo is simple. Just hold basic attack for the Cloud Shaper EX. You should have time to do 2 of them, but do keep an eye on that adrenaline gauge so that you don't accidentally lock yourself out of the second cast. If you don't have a character that can quick assist, then you skip the Auric Array and go straight to Cloud Shapers, but this will be more demanding of adrenaline, so do keep that in mind.
Focus on her core, basics and EX first and foremost, then her chain into assist, and lastly dodge. Her best 4-piece is a 4-piece Moonlight Lullaby, and while I would highly recommend using that set over literally anything else, a 4-piece Astral Voice Swing Jazz or Protopunk will do as well. For the 2-piece Phaethon's Melody is non-negotiable. We are looking to hit 3000 initial attack on her, and that means we are looking for Anomaly Proficiency or Attack % in slot 4, Attack % in slot 5 and Anomaly Mastery in slot 6. For non-anomaly teams specifically, run Crit Rate in slot 4, Attack % in slot 6 and Weeping Cradle as her W-Engine choice. For substats, focus on Anomaly Proficiency and Attack %, then Flat Attack if you need to get closer to 3000 initial attack, or Flat Pen. For her weapons, her signature is required if you want to max out her additional ability, but maxing it is a bonus and not a requirement, so we don't necessarily need it. Other great options include Kaboom the Cannon, Elegant Vanity or Weeping Cradle, and Unfettered Game Ball for non-anomaly teams. Yuzua is the best in-slot support for all anomaly teams and hence pairs extremely well with all of them. She can also be played in some special scenarios in attacker comps, such as with Soldier 11, Corin or Nekomata to sustain burn or assaults for Inferno or Fanged Metal.
Zhu Yuan is a burst ether DPS. That means her damage comes out in a very quick time in the form of her ultimate, EX special, and her basic attack enhanced shot shells. That said, you should focus on those 3 skills for her investment. Rotation-wise, due to her damage output being very limited to her resource, unleashing her damage inside a stun window is the best for her, while she gathers her resource outside of the stun window. 4-piece chaotic metal is her comfiest drive this option, with condition that the enemy is inflicted with corruption before she bursts her damage in the stun window. This is easier to do if she is with Nicole, whose energy field builds a lot of ether anomaly. Other viable option would be 4-piece Hormone Pang, but it requires some planning to tune the uptime, and the 2-piece can go with Woodpecker, Branch and Blade, or Astral. On these 4, you want attack % over crit damage, but if you don't have her signature, then you should go with crit rate. Auto damage on these 5 and attack on these 6. Her signature currently is still her best in slot. Other than that, Brimstone with high refinement is a good option, and other S-rank attack double engine as crit value stat stick would also work fine. Zhu Yuan wants a teammate that can amplify her damage and enable her burst rotation. Some great synergy teammate includes Nicole, Qingyi, Trigger, or Astra.
And with that, we are at the outro. Thank you so much for watching, even if you only watched like one single agent, that is what this video is for after all. And also a massive thanks to all of the content creators who joined in on this project. It has been a ton of fun, make sure to check them out and subscribe to all of them. You will find their links in the description as well as in the pinned comment. Join the Discord, like, comment, subscribe, yada yada, and a massive thanks to my Patreon members as well. I appreciate all of you and wish you a great day. Enjoy the outtakes. Peace.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about Evelyn. Someone just subscribed to me. Thanks, random guy on YouTube. 2.3, 2.2. It's fine. It's fine, okay? It's fine.
Now, for Billy's drive disc, his best in slot 4 Pez. 4 Pez? Topaz? 4 Pez? 4 P's. I was. My...
ALG here, and Riv wants me to tell you to F your Nicole. In other words, her core skill is most important as the defense shred that she provides is here. After this, her priorities are to grade blah 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 blah. I just voice.
I do have like a sinus infection, so you'll have to bear with me here. But for discs, you're gonna want to.
Is it Yixuan? 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 Yunkui? Man, even in the live streams, it doesn't sound consistent.
For the 2-piece, we are looking at a 2-piece swing jet or moonlight. Blah blah blah. 2-piece swing jazz. Moonlight, not moonlit, lullaby. Holy fuck. As already mentioned a very few times by now, Lycaon has a set place within a Miyabi. This team is harder to play with Lycaon than it is with Yixuan. Lighter to play. Holy